You're good, Justin.
Alrighty. Hello, hello, students. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Today we are here with an awesome presenter today. I'm gonna allow him to go ahead and jump into his stuff because we have a lot to talk about today. Eben, I want to make sure I'm saying your last name correctly. Is it Burgoon?
Yeah, nailed it.
We're here with Eben Burgoon. Now, Eben has an extensive background, so I want to go through this really quickly. That way you can ask all of your questions. Eben Burgoon is an author, artist, and sculptor, best known for creating his webcomic, Eben '07, which he's going to talk to you about today. His work is currently in collaborations with Starburn Industries. If you ever remember Starburns as from NBC's Community, if you remember that character, the publishing arm of Burbank-based animation studio behind Moral Oral, Harmon Quest, and Rick and Morty, as well as the Academy-nominated feature Anomalisa. In 2019, In 2019, B Squad debuted for Starburns Industries Press as a Comic-Con International exclusive, which is awesome. We're going to ask Eben about that. So everybody, give it up for Eben Burgoon. Eben, how are you doing today?
Great. I mean, it's morning here. I had my coffee though, so
okay.
Good.
Yeah. How have you been during the during all of this coronavirus stuff?
Oh, things are upside down and topsy-turvy, and but I think the thing that I've kind of acknowledged, from at least for myself, is that you have this time where you can kind of look at what you can do to try to help other people and try to keep people maybe a little less stir crazy. So I've been trying to readapt, but it's everybody's experiencing this in some really good ways and in some really, really bad ways, and there's silver linings, and it's confusing. I mean,
right.
That.
So what do you have for us today? Show us all the stuff. I know there's a lot going on, and we just want you to go ahead and jump right into this thing.
Okay. Well, today, my thought was to walk everybody through some of the things that I do. So I can do the kind of my writing method, which is when I learned about the Dan Harmon story circle, as well as some other methods for kind of breaking down a story, I found them really useful to kind of bring them into my own world for comics. And so I use these principles in my comics, and it's all kind of riffing off Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. And so, like you mentioned Community, you may have seen in Community the little thing like this.
Yes.
In the background, yes. Right? Even the flag, right? Like how it's supposed to be a little butt.
Yeah.
That
ends up becoming like their school flag, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's I think you'll see it every now and then, on the whiteboards, or even they'll kind of make meta jokes about it in Rick and Morty, or a lot of the things that Starburns Industries does kind of have riffed off this hero's journey thing. And Dan and a lot of the writers' rooms, this is how they kind of have broken down stories, and it's a really interesting method to apply just in terms of how you approach writing in general. And so I guess I'll just kind of walk through what those things are. So the fast way you can kind of remember this is it's you have a need, so you go, you search, you find, you take, and then you return having changed. And if you think about how that's just your story beats, right? So I'm really fond of teaching this in a method where you take this story circle and you quickly apply it to making a little tiny mini comic based off a random idea.
Okay.
And I'll throw it in the chat. But when I do workshops overseas and all over, I usually have this hat that's full of just random ideas for comics or whatever. and people can kind of like, I made this so that trying to do these workshops digitally, people would be able to like go to it and be able to pick a random thing out of the hat.
Okay.
And then try to frame their story in this, you need to go search, find, having changed.
Is this it? Is this the spinning wheel?
That's the spinner, yeah.
All
So
right,
if you click it.
All right, it's spinning. Where it stops, no one knows.
This is great.
All right.
Yay. Sleepy hummingbird. I love it.
Okay.
That's a good one for the morning for me.
That's awesome.
So, you know, I think there's like 50 or 60 little ideas in there. But then let's think about like how we could apply Sleeping Hummingbird into like a short form comic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what would be the you? What would be the main character? Probably the sleeping hummingbird but I think in terms of trying to break it down into a story, was the hummingbird always sleepy? Are they trying to get over their sleepy? And that's when you kind of get into that need, right? So you're giving your character a need, and they may or may not know they need that. And then they're gonna go, and meaning they get that like call to adventure that you've probably heard of before about when you're talking about the hero's journey. They get that call to adventure, and then they go and search for what they need to find. And that search can be full of, that's that road of trials. Like it can be like maybe the hummingbird encounters a new character that's trying to like make sure he doesn't get the coffee that he needs, or maybe it's the alarm clock that has run off with another alarm clock and now is not waking up the sleepy hummingbird. You can, whatever that is, whatever that search kind of comes to be, we're going to ultimately find what they need. They're going to take what they find, which anytime that you take something, you usually pay a price for it. So if you think about this in terms of like things that you've seen before, like let's say Star Wars, like always categorically fits with this, like Luke Skywalker, you know, he's this desert orphan, just like Rey is a
I guess his need to belong.
What's that?
I'm looking at the circle. So if we're like following the Star Wars mantra, his need would to be, I guess, to have an adventure or to belong.
Right. Well, he was looking up to the stars, right? Like in those opening scenes, like where he's like, I know I'm not meant for just being this farm boy. I'm meant for something else. So he yearns for that. And then, you know, these obstacles are kind of put before him that the droids show up and they say, hey, come with us. Like, you need to go. Obi-Wan Kenobi is like, hey, you need to go. Right. And so they ultimately go find the prince. Their goal is to go find the princess.
Yes.
They search for the princess in a few different places, and they gather some more heroes. And when he ultimately finds the princess, he takes the princess and rescues her, becoming kind of the hero that he is. But what price does he pay?
Right.
That. What's the price he pays for the take?
Essentially, everybody on the dark side is like coming for him, or Obi-Wan Kenobi dies.
Sorry,
spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Yeah. Obi-Wan Kenobi, usually that's what I'm talking about when we talk about when you take a price, like you pay something. It's not usually like fundamentally transactional, but like even if you were to break this down just in terms of talking about your daily life, like you were hungry, so you went to the grocery store, you found a candy bar, you picked it up and took it to the register and paid a price, right? Or maybe you run out the door. Either way, you're going to pay a little tiny price for taking that, right?
Right.
And then when you return, you're returning to something that's kind of familiar for your character. So for Luke Skywalker, he returns to the Rebel base, you know, now a Jedi, now a hero. Everybody loves him. This is what he kind of expected would happen for his need, right?
Right. And you're saying this is a formula that everybody kind of uses, or is this just
this works for everything. This works for everything. Like, and when you watch Rick and Morty, the new seasons, like I think debuted today, like you'll start to see these patterns in everything.
They kind of seem like they go off course, because like I guess with Rick and Morty there might be two circles.
Right.
Yeah.
That's definitely a thing. The writers' rooms that they have, like definitely there's story. These are figuring out beats for lots of characters and arcs for the characters over time. So you could do one that's a very small, like There's actually another method that's called the Pixar method, which is more like a fairy tale. I don't know if is that coming backwards?
No. It's
Okay,
actually the right. Well, it's the right way for us. I don't know how
okay,
it look on Facebook. Let me see. On
good.
Facebook, no, it's still the same way. You're in
okay.
good shape.
Reads right.
Yeah. So
So
once
this
upon a
this
time.
method was from a book that's called it's a book. It's a lovely book. It's by Brian McDonald. Let me see if I have it here. I might have it here. Here it is. Invisible Ink. So it's covered in this book quite extensively. It's another book about writing, and they're just there is it's like once upon a time, blank, and every day, blank, until one day, blank, and because of that, and because of this, until finally, and ever since. So it breaks down like every single kind of story. And why I like kind of calling it the Pixar method is Pixar are really good at like those first scenes, which are micro versions of this. Like, so if you think of like Up and how it makes you just cry within those first 15 minutes, it's because they do this really fast before then they set out
Can
on
you can you hold it up again? The Pixar one?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a Pixar story. So like if we use, I guess, Toy Story, since that's
Toy
just such
Story.
the original Toy Story. So once upon a time there were toys that hung out with Andy.
Yeah.
What would the next step be?
And every day they would get up to they would have play dates, and
Yes.
they would and then until one day Buzz Lightyear shows up, and because of that it creates a leadership problem because of the new favorite toy.
Right.
And because of this it leads Woody, the stalwart hero, to get jealous, and then there's a whole series of cause and effect because of this, because of that, until finally they are able to I think they rescue Buzz from the toy collector. Is that the first Toy Story?
No, that the first Toy Story is that no, it's funny because there's so many.
Both get lost, right?
They get
Sid
lost.
was the first one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the second one's the toy collector. Third one is Andy's going to college. Fourth one,
right.
One is Bo Peep and Woody.
No. See, no spoilers. No
Oh,
spoilers.
sorry.
Disney Plus, y'all. Disney Plus.
Yeah.
The third one's with the bear.
Yeah. That's when like that one has like a very like I felt like that one it's been out so long I don't think it's fair to say spoilers. When they're in like the little garbage chute thing, like I was like bawling. But they're really good at like making those emotionally resonant kind of things, and like these methodologies work for everything. It works for Harry Potter, for Back to the Future, for Die Hard, for whatever. And
I never
if you
realized
want to read more about sorry.
I said I never realized that so many points were like so standard when it came to making a story. So then how do people like mess up stories? Like where do they go wrong?
Well, that's all. This isn't going to necessarily say this isn't going to make a good story. It's just telling you a system for how stories are resonant. So like this is reducing down to like, it's basically like saying, here's the olive oil before you go fry your eggs and make your whole breakfast, right? Like you can totally botch that. This is like the pots and pans, and then how you cook is really up to you.
Got it.
So this is really, I think what's really great about this is that it really gives you the moments of your story that you know you need to use to tell your story, but then it also kind of creates it's a playbook. So then you can also, like, let's say you have figured out that your sleepy hummingbird, right? You know you want the sleepy hummingbird to come back being not so sleepy anymore, right? Well, then you know you can work backwards or go back through the circle in any way to kind of try to reshape that story to make it compelling.
Yeah. So so show us some of the stuff that you've worked on. I know you have a web series. I see some of the stuff in the background. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And like, just tell us some more about your experiences, because I know that a lot of people are fans of Rick and Morty. They're fans of Moral Oral. I don't even know if I could.
So, well, I got hooked in with Starburns Industries and Starburns Industries Press. Gosh, that was probably like around the time that they started the publishing division. Was when we first kind of started talking. And it was amazing. Like it was a dream come true. I mean, I've been a fan of their work for a really long time, and meeting Simon, who's the kind of the head of the publishing, and Trevor, who's we had some really great. We went to like comic conventions together and just got to know each other, and they really liked my series B Squad,
Okay.
which is about a bunch of mercenaries that go on really ridiculous adventure missions, and then while I'm writing the story, I kill a character off so it's a squad of 6, and I roll a 6-sided little token. It's called a T totem. And whatever number comes up, that character dies. And then I replace them with a new character in the next mission.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it's a constantly like changing mess of characters. And it makes it really fun for me to be able to like kind of create new characters and also tell a story about a collective rather than just a single character, and see how that kind of works.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
And so that's the book that I'm doing with them. And then I'm also developing another one called Tiny Wizards, which is about like French fry sized wizards that get stuck in a truck stop town in California. And so they're kind of doing their Game of Thrones thing. But they're the size of French fries, running around all the fast food restaurants. And
that's funny.
I think I can. There's a free 5-page like preview of that on my website.
Okay, you want to give us your website plug?
Yeah, sure. It's just my name, but I'll put it in the chat, I guess.
I see I recognize that icon in the back that's on the scrolly like pamphlet. It's with the chef. It normally pops up and say, "It's a good show."
Yep. It's a good show. Yeah. So the publishing division is sort of what we're doing there is really cool. What we're doing is kind of capturing comic books that are beautiful, funny, strange, and sad. And then we're developing those comic books first before we kind of take them and pitch them to networks and as films or whatever, as web series.
And those tones of all of those stories that are told, and I'm assuming, and I'm going to make a very strong assumption that it's also included in your work as well, those stories, while funny and while humorous, they can flip so quickly and really like tug at your heartstrings. I mean, I know from just the different projects that you mentioned and the ones I looked up, I mean, they are very humorous in tone, but they can very quickly just change. Like, talk about that process, and like, while there's a humorous tone, how viewers or fans get sucked up into loving a character and then it just be taken away.
Yeah, well, I think that the reality of, I mean, even what we're kind of going through right now with the pandemic, the reality is like we're in a wash with things that are memes that are funny, that make us laugh. There are moments to all of this that make us laugh. There are things that are really beautiful, like people on their porches banging pots and pans to thank emergency workers. Life is this, life is beautiful, funny. There's the sad consequences that are very real of people passing away and losing their fight with this. There's being stuck in your home and just feeling like you can't get a hug. Like, all of that stuff's very real. And it's also really strange because like, this isn't normal. Like, none of this is normal. So, and not what we're used to. So, and it's creating like strange moments where you're having like either just weird conversations with your pets, or there's people that walk their dogs dressed up as rainbows. Like, there's just wonderful, really amazing things that are happening all over the world. And it's really, that's kind of, I think, the magic of storytelling. Like, when we were little cavemen, our ancestors, their parents were probably asking their kids, like, what did you do today? And they were like tired of trying to talk about it. So they told the story on the cave wall. And that's language, that's storytelling. Like, we all are beings wired to try to yearn and explain why life is like this. Yeah. And I think that's really at the heart of all of the stories that we try to tell, at least, whether they're good, bad, or we like them or we don't like them. Like, there are fans of every different kind of story out there. You're never going to please everybody, kind of a thing. You just need to tell the story you want to tell.
Right. So this is being streamed from Facebook, and there's a question from someone who's watching. His name is Kevin, and Kevin wants to know: is it harder to animate on print or in claymation?
Oh, that's a great question. It's not something I'm super familiar with, but I would 100% say that most of the time, the best way to, like, I mean, even I got to tour Pixar not that long ago, and I mean, like, just the amount of like work that goes into like rigging 3D, like you would think that it would just make things so much more simpler and faster to have it all in the computer and everything. And the truth is, like, when you don't have people to like move around and whatnot, like everything costs a lot of money. Everything's really expensive with animation. And I would say that maybe the best way to put it is like traditional animation is very expensive because it's very labor intensive, but so is claymation. Like you're thinking about 60 frames a second that you have to kind of move and tweak with a whole bunch of different moving parts. And that can be done really simply, and that can be done like on a Melissa where they're rigging 100 different face movements. So it really depends. Like it's not like it's that simple, like one's cheaper than the other. It just really depends on, you know, you can make a little flip book that's traditionally animation that you draw in the corner of a bunch of pages, and some people do that, and it's great.
Right, absolutely. So we got a couple more questions here, but before we do that, let's take a pause real quick. So Eben, if people want to follow you, like what are your social media handles? I know you also posted some of your websites in the chat box. We posted them on the Facebook, but how can people follow you if they want to see your work?
I think probably Instagram is probably the thing where I share my work the most. I lurk on Twitter a bit. Instagram's where I post a mix of like drawings and stories and things that I'm working on amid pets and other cuteness.
Okay.
And then Facebook is like a mix of things. I do have I just started a Facebook page that's like exclusively for my work. And there's also like during the pandemic, I've been doing live streaming on Twitch and YouTube and Twitter and Facebook.
Okay, very nice, very nice. So I guess out of all the another question is, out of all the fun things that you've done, what's been the most rewarding for you? And then another one is fun. So I guess fun and rewarding.
It's a mix. Like I really love my comic book work. Obviously, I'm a fan of the things I make. And B Squad has certainly opened up a lot of amazing doors. And I had built that as a way for under-discovered artists to get their start in comics. So the art style changes from every single mission because I work with a different artist on that. So as the characters change, so do the art styles. And the goal was to kind of help elevate all of us and create kind of a rising tide. And that's led to just some really amazing things. There was a project I did with a nonprofit where we went into kind of underserved communities, and I would teach writing and storytelling and scripting. And then they had to develop a pitch and pitch their concept to adult artists. And then those artists selected who they wanted to work with and had to sell themselves to the kids. And then we put that all into a book. And so the kids' scripts were illustrated by adults, and that would look like a really awesome polished comic book by the end of it. It was really amazing, and I will never forget like a kid who wasn't able to make the book release party. I came into the school to bring him his comics, and he was like, "Oh, Mr. Eben, will you sign my book?" And I was like, "Why would I sign your book? Like, you wrote it." Like,
right.
And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm a writer." And he told me that the whole reason that he couldn't make it to the book release party, it was because like his dad had gone to jail, and he just was really angry and didn't know what to do. And
Wow.
And I told him like to like write about it, like to, write those feelings. Like he had written a story that was about an angry volcano that had gobbled up the world. Like, how we write and how we kind of transmute our thoughts into stories. you can't help but like kind of put some of what's going on in our lives into those things.
Right. Do you get excited when you get to see your work? Like, I know you're working with all these different companies, but like when it gets manifested and it's put like on the big screen or it's put on your TV, I mean, how does that feel to be a part of these projects?
Oh, it's surreal. I mean, it's not. I mean, like I think everything changed for me when I was working with my friend Dan. We were making that first webcomic, which is about the janitors that clean up after James Bond. And it was a really dorky little comic that we were just kind of like putting on the web and learning how to tell comics and learning about that. And when we finally decided like, oh, well, let's collect this thing that we've been working on for a few years into a book, and getting that first book like changed everything. We made a ton of mistakes. Like it was an awful little book, like in terms of design, and like it was just our first steps. But those first steps are your first, your worst, and your best at the same time. And that's something that you'll relish for the rest of your days. Like I cherish the little copies of that book that I still have, because it was the first one. It was like it was the thing that like pushed me to do everything that I've kind of done since. And that's led to just some surreal moments, like flying paper airplanes off the top of the municipal center in Vilnius with the world record holder for paper airplanes.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Any future projects coming up that we should like be excited for? Are you excited for the premiere of Rick and Morty tonight? Like,
heck yeah!
Look forward.
I'll be watching for sure. Like, I love Rick and Morty. And I think for me, like some of the more exciting things that are kind of going on personally, like Tiny Wizards is definitely like at the apex of the list.
Do you have any drawings from Tiny Wizards that we could see?
Yeah. Am I allowed to share the screen? I can like show the pictures of it.
Yeah. Leah, how do we do that?
You have to look at go to like security at the bottom, and make sure that participants can share screen, because you're the host.
Okay.
And I think they can, because I'm able to share it and I'm not the host, so he should be able to share.
All right, you got it now? You got it now?
Let me see. Yeah, here we go. All right. So this is Tiny Wizards. So this is the main wizard and his derpy unicorn Hugo, and you can kind of see they're gonna get stuck in as a small little unicorn and wizard as they kind of go through the adventures here.
Okay.
So this book's getting kind of finished right now and will be out probably by July. And
that's so cool.
This is just the first 5 pages. But this is available as a free PDF on my website. So if you do want to see it, it's going to be about little wizards trying to survive amid the chaos of our mass consumption of food.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
And the wizard spells are all in Lithuanian, which I really got enchanted by the Lithuanian language. It's a really kind of beautiful language. And when I was teaching a workshop there, I was talking about like the phrase of onomatopoeia, right? We all know those words like crash, bang, zoom, zip, those action sounds. And a gal, she was like, do you know this word in Lithuanian? And I was like, I have no idea what that word is in Lithuanian. And she told me it's Ištintukis. And Ištintukis is like such a cool name. Like it's the same kind of word as onomatopoeia. Like it just kind of sounds like a ludicrous word for saying action noises.
Right. That's
funny.
I
really loved it. Yeah.
So today, for everybody who's watching, Eben showed us how to do a storyboard, which was really cool. You showed us the Starburns way as well as like Pixar way. Is there any other studios?
Oh, yeah, I can show my journal. I have my writing journal, and I can kind of show how I even did that in my own work for comics really quick, if you guys like. But you can kind of see, like, I make those same story circles in my journals. This is actually like, I show this quite a bit, but this is my story circle for my entire series of B Squad. So like
Okay.
the amount of B Squad that's told really is only about to like right here. So we still got a plenty to go. And
Nice.
yeah, there's a lot.
You ever wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, I have this great idea.
Yeah, I mean, like that's a thing I really like to tell, to encourage people to do is like, I mean, I've got mountains of these things. You know, when you have ideas, like write them down. And there's no such thing as like a bad idea. Like like an idea, it can be unnurtured. They're like little seeds. So, you know, if you write down something and you're like, oh, I don't know about that, well, just write it down. So at least like your mind will start to like kind of play with it and let it percolate, and you can always revisit it and kind of keep pushing it until it becomes something better, and give it room to grow and try. Like, I think that we do have these like impulses when we're staring at blank pieces of paper that they have to be perfect before it hits the paper. And really that's just so not true. Like, there's nothing to be afraid of. Just get it out there and get it done. And I've got like books and books of these things that are full of these like random little ideas or random scribbles and random drawings that could easily get pushed into something when they're ready.
Yeah. So Eben, what we've been doing at the conclusion of all of our speakers is we've allowed them to have the last word. So if you have like a key to life or something you want to leave as an impression for the students, like this is your opportunity to drop some knowledge. So what do you got for us?
Well, I tend to view creativity as a muscle. Like, we're all in school and we're all studying like different things, disparate things. But if you really want to innovate, if you really want to do something kind of new or push something forward, you need to flex the muscle of your creativity. And nothing is better than that, than like confronting something that you really haven't tried before. So try making a comic book, try making some art, and make room for that in your life every day if you can. And practice, right? Like, the secret, I think, to telling a good story or making good art or any of that, making something that you really want to sing and shout like, I did this and it's amazing, is practice. You know, like, you don't get LeBron James isn't instantly good at basketball. He's shooting the basketball every day, you know, probably 10,000 times a day to make sure that he stays at the top of his game. It's the same with art. Like, with artists, you don't ever see the mounds and mounds of work that they've done in their past. They just kind of float around and look like they're wizards when really they're just seasoned in practice. So if you can keep that room open for creativity and flex that muscle and make sure that, like, while you work out your body, you also work out your creativity, you'll find that when you're confronted with problems in whatever you're studying, you'll start to come up with creative solutions for those problems and think a little more critically. And when you're confronted with new weird information, that you'll be able to kind of creatively look at it and find that leads to like that innovation that pushes us forward as a species and as we're all in this together kind of way.
Yeah, absolutely. Eben Burgoon, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Eben, you are also welcome to come to any of these sessions. But before we get off, we want to let everybody know who's is on tap for this week. So we just spoke with Eben, had some awesome stuff to tell us. We got Will Catlett at 2 p.m. He is from Black Lightning. I don't know if you've ever seen that show on the CW, Eben, but that's
that's awesome.
Cool show. Yeah, really excited for him. Kate Flannery from The Office is today at 5. We got Trav Q at 2 tomorrow. He's a social media comedian. He's also done some work with BET. Alton J. Harris, I mean, he's a legend, ESPN broadcasting legend. Elijah Connor, the infamous meme. He's actually going to talk to us. He's going to sing us some tunes. Vince Papale, Philadelphia Eagles legend. We got Brian Dawkins, another Philadelphia Eagles legend. Leah, you can take some of this away because some of these individuals you know.
Yeah, Jordan Buhat. So he is known for being on Grownish. Walter E. Jones is the original Black Power Ranger. Francia Risa is also from Grownish and a whole bunch of other stuff. And Marquet Richardson is from Netflix's Dear White People.
Yes. So we got a jam-packed week, everybody. We hope to see you then. And until then, we'll see you at 2 o'clock.